thing.
There you go.
Yeah, I think so.
I just got a
Well,
pair of those too. My wife got me
yeah,
some of those. It makes a difference, man.
it does. It's like because after a
And
few
we're live,
minutes, like
by the way.
it's oh, we're
We're
live.
live. Yeah, but that's fine.
Go
We can
take over. It's your show.
Let's talk about the blue light glasses after this. After I introduce this amazing human being that is on the show, Mr.
Well,
Sage
thank you.
Benado from Benado Effects is here.
Thank you.
Sage and I we started talking, I don't know, 6 months ago or something like that. Like you happened to see the show.
Yes.
We talk often.
Yeah.
But I'm so happy to have you on here because there's so much about your company and everything that I don't know. And I purposefully like held back so I could be this, genuine with you
Yeah.
on the show. But thanks for making time, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. I mean, it's like when I saw your show the first time, I was like, first of all, I want to say whoever made your artwork, I love it.
Terry, yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
If you need stuff done,
I
he's
need
the
to talk
man.
to him.
You should. He's I think he found me through like my demos that I was doing title demo stuff, and we like a lot of the same stuff. And so he hit me up and was like, "Hey man, I've been following your videos. I'm glad you're posting more." And I told him about my idea of doing this.
Right.
And I woke up the next day in my email, he had sent me all these different graphics. And
wow.
He's like, "What do you think about this? Like, would you want to use this?" And I was like, "Dude, yes, it's amazing." He does stuff for a lot of people, man. I think he's doing stuff for Dominion Fuzz. He's doing a bunch of stuff for Vertex. He's done stuff.
Okay.
So I can hook you guys up.
Yeah, hook me. Yeah, because the first thing when I saw it the first time, might have been more than 6 months, but the first thing caught my eye was the flyer that you have, at home with Mark and all that, and I was like, that's very interesting. The logo is very interesting, and the colors are the one that really drew me in. I was like, what is this at home with Mark thing? And that's when I start kind of like following you, and I enjoy it. I love it.
Thanks, man. Well, you're part of the history now, so I'm appreciative of that. Yeah, I always joke with Terry because he's just so good at what he does, and I'm always like, thanks for making me look cooler than I actually am. So, but Sage,
yes, sir.
All right, so the format here. It's kind of cheating because you've seen a bunch of them, but I kind of twisted the script a little bit, and I'm curious about people's earliest musical memories.
Okay.
Originally I was always like, what's the moment you started playing guitar or anything? But like for me, it predates that. So like, what is like your earliest musical memory?
Well, if I have to turn that little knob of going back in time, my father was a sea captain. And he, every time he came back home from wherever he was, either if it was Europe, Mediterranean, the Americas, the Far East, he brought vinyls, and I remember the one vinyl that he brought in that stayed with me till today. It's actually an Italian group by the name Pooh. It's Pooh.
Okay.
The album is called Opera Prima, and it's the first time that I ever heard, and that was 1977 maybe, when I got familiar with that album. That album was recorded in 1969.
Oh wow.
But it's the first time that I've heard kind of like a rock with classical arrangement behind. Like if you think about the Moody Blues, White Knight Satin, that album. So it was kind of like that, but it just drew me. To me, it was like, what the heck? It's not just rock, and it's not just pop. There's something very interesting.
Yeah.
So that's my first memory that linger, 40 something years later.
Man, so do you still have that copy of that vinyl?
Well, I don't have the vinyl because back in the day we didn't think vinyls are
gonna last.
valuable, and I think I don't know who it was in the house to put it outside and it just cooked under the sun and it was all. But I do have a copy that I made on high quality cassette. I mean, you probably see all my, yeah.
Yeah.
And I am looking for the vinyl, but I do have a copy of that album,
Nice.
either on a digital format or it's just an amazing album.
Man, I've never heard it, so I'll have to
Yeah.
go find
I'll
it
send
and
you a
check
link.
that.
I'll send
Okay.
you a link. Yeah. Really
Okay,
good.
yeah. I'd
Yeah.
love to check it out.
Sure.
So, was that moment, like, hearing that music, was your family or anyone in your family musical, or
No.
No,
My
okay.
father, no one. My father told me that his mom, and she died when he was 15. So she died really early
Really
age.
young. Mhm.
But he told me that she used to play the violin.
Mm.
But that's it. I mean, no one else was a musical. Now, my father loved classical music, so the exposure to music was through my father listening to the vinyls and stuff like that. But he was I mean, he loved classical music. And then later on, when I got into music and playing and all that, I used to try to throw in, it's like, hey, what do you think about that band? It was Pink Floyd or Dire Straits and all that. So
Mhm.
some of them was like,
Yeah.
but yeah, but he really loved. There's one song that I hope I'm not gonna cry.
That's
My
fine.
father passed away.
Mhm.
But there was one song that my father told me for years that it's probably one of the best songs he ever heard in his life. And I was shocked because coming from him, it's like,
Yeah.
It was Queen, Who Wants to Live Forever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, if you listen to that song, I mean, it's just gonna rip you apart.
Mhm.
And I played that song on my father's funeral.
Oh, man. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, but
That's
yeah, so
beautiful.
that was even went from classical music and he used to grab me every day. It's like, hey, sit down, son, and listen to this. And it was like I don't know, the Ninth Symphony of Beethoven, and it's like,
Right.
leave me alone. It's too heavy.
That's great. I mean, I think it's funny when you think about if you think about Queen and across the spectrum of all the records that Queen released,
Yeah.
there is that classical element. Like Freddie was definitely influenced by that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yes.
And it's I'm always curious about, I don't know if I've ever seen Paul McCartney talk about Queen in any videos, but I would be so curious to ask Paul McCartney, where was he the first time he heard Bohemian Rhapsody? And what was his experience of that song in that moment?
It's I mean, even today, when you listen to that song, you kind of asking yourself, how is it even possible
Right.
during that time to compose and write something like this?
Right.
I mean, it's beyond you know, beyond normal,
Dude, yeah. It's mind-boggling, but,
It
like,
is.
there's so much music from, I mean, I'm in my 40s, my early 40s, and, like, I grew up at a time when grunge was happening, so that was
Sure.
my big, like, "Oh, the tide has changed, and now I'm into this." But, like, for you, like, after you heard that first record, did you, like, quickly start to, like, seek out music that you would like, or did it kind of come to you? Like, what happened there?
Well, so that album was kind of like the first, at least the first one that I remember as being an impact on me, and I was probably 8 years old, so that's pretty young.
Mhm.
But like I said, he was a sea captain, so every couple of months he used to come back with more stuff. So a lot of country music, old country music was coming in. Johnny Cash, Charlie Rich, and then later on it will be like Kenny Rogers and John Denver and stuff like that. So all of a sudden that little bit of there's like the guitar playing and when you're listening to classic country, there's a format.
Oh,
You're gonna
yeah.
have the three chords, but you're gonna have a cool guitar solo or cool pedal steel solo. So that drew me in. And I think at the age of 10, and I don't even remember why and how, if you ask me, I remember myself the first time in 1979, grabbing a whole bunch of pots from my mom's kitchen and drumming. I mean, that was my first love, is drumming.
Interesting.
And then within a year later, my mom signed me into a guitar lessons, like a classical guitar lessons,
Is that because it would have been a little bit quieter?
Probably, because I mean, if you think about all this pans and, pots and pans, you're like, and you crashing them, it's like a little bit annoying.
Yeah, dude, I did the same thing when I was a kid. And when I was teaching music at a private school in Baltimore, I was teaching piano, bass, guitar, drums, and vocals.
Right.
And the kids that played the drums, it's the most fun, right? It's kinetic. It's immediately you can be musical. But I had a third grader in his recital at the end of the year. I played with him, and he played When the Levee Breaks, and he crushed it.
Wow.
Like, that kid, I hope he's still playing drums, because that kid had so much natural talent.
Yeah.
It's just astounding when you see. And I love that kids can identify with something that's musical, even if you're not playing on a drum set, like you're being musical.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, although I'm a guitar player and I never learned drums, the one thing that I look for, even today, listening to music, it's the drummer and the bass.
Yeah.
That's always the one thing that I really, because I mean, guitars, that's fine. I mean, yeah, there's a cool solo, there's a great chords and all that, and there's funky, but man, the groove.
Yeah.
Because you can have a great songwriter, a great guitar player, but if there's no groove in the music, it's not going to sound right. So I don't know, maybe that's because of my first desire to be a drummer. I'm kind of like listening more to the drummers, and and when I play live, whenever we played live, I always wanted to stand closer to the drummer. Somehow, like I want to feel it. I want to see it. So yeah.
If you could put together a power trio, so you're playing guitar,
right?
Who would be your favorite? Like, if you could have anybody, like, who would be the rhythm section?
Of course, the drummer, he's not with us anymore, Porcaro.
Oh yeah.
Porcaro has to be the drummer.
Yeah.
And Nathan East, maybe.
Oh, okay.
As the bass,
Okay.
Yeah. But there's something about Porcaro, man, that it's just, I don't know. When what? Another one, and he's alive, that I can put him right there, will be Simon Phillips.
Oh yeah. Oh dude, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many, man. And when you think back to a lot of those cats like Porcaro, who were in the LA like studio session musician scene, there's so many great musicians. Like, and half of them were in Toto.
Yes, I know. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
It's so funny, dude. So then how did guitar, so your mom gets you, like you said, classical guitar lessons?
Yeah, it was, classical. And then my teacher was literally a classical, when you sit down and that position and all that. And I remember I enjoyed the first few lessons, and you learn the basic and all that stuff. But somehow I discovered that she's teaching me more to play recitals and to be part of the group to play recitals. And although I was 10, 11, I was like, I don't know. I mean, there's something out there than playing recital. And then one day, this is funny because, I was listening, I told you I was listening to that Italian band, and then of course Queen was around, captured me, and of course Pink Floyd. But one day I heard something on the radio, back in the day when you had to dial the a real radio, AM, FM. I heard it. Now it was a classical a guitar, but it wasn't a classical piece. It was like a pop, but it was an instrumental. And I didn't know who it was, but I was mesmerized by the melody of that thing. And at the end of this piece, the announcer says, "This is Mark Knopfler from the local hero film soundtrack." And I was like, "Who the heck is Mark Knopfler?" You know, I didn't even know about Dire Straits.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, Sultans of Swing is the first thing I heard about Dire Straits." No, that was the first thing I've heard of Mark Knopfler. It's this thing. So when I start hearing, Mark Knopfler, there's a band called Dire Straits, and it's not like today you can jump on YouTube and type in Dire Straits and you find it. You had to wait for a song to come on the radio that says, "Oh, that's Dire Straits,"
Right.
And I think one day I heard Sultans of Swing. And I was like, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
So I went to my teacher and I was like, nope. I'm not doing recitals. I'm not doing classical guitar. I want electric guitar and I want to rock.
So at that point, did you actually change? Were you like, I'm out and got an electric?
Yeah. And then she was chasing my mom for months. She was crying to my mom. There's something about him. I don't want him to quit.
Yeah.
And I told my mom, I said, I don't want to. She just wanted me to learn to play recitals. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I still have, that classical guitar, which I still have till today. It's the first one and it's the one that I carry with me. But every time I heard either if it was a Pink Floyd or Dire Straits, I tried to play the solos on a classical guitar. And that was for years before I even had my hand on an electric guitar.
Right.
I think I was already probably high school before I even had an electric guitar.
Oh, wow.
So it was all on that classical guitar. So every single solo I had to learn, from Pink Floyd to Dire Straits, it was on a classical guitar. Yeah.
That's so great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're in high school at that point, Sage, did you put a band together? When did you start playing with people?
I think my first year in high school, we did have a band that we played, and it, back then it was the hair band era, early 80s. So it was like that heavy stuff and all that. So what did we do? Like Europe, it's like Final Countdown and all this kind of stuff. So I think that that was the first time I had a band. I can say that we had a true band, a drummer, a keyboard, bass, guitar player, and a singer. Like a 5-piece or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, so we did play, but that wasn't me. There was something in me that was looking for something else. It was more of the melodic. It was more of the smooth music, and so I was kind of like going my own way, kind of a thing. I played with a few bands through my life, but it was never something that I said, yeah, I'm happy, this is what I want to do. There was something inside. It's kind of like, no, you need to do your thing, so
that's interesting. So
yeah,
was it like the Floyd stuff and like the Dire Straits stuff that you had that in you, and it was like the hair metal stuff is not? So you were like, peace, I have to go do this thing that's more soulful, and like, is that accurate?
Yes, and and don't get me wrong, when you listen to all these hair band bands, phenomenal solos, and I was like, yeah, I would like to play that, but it didn't touch me like when you hear David Gilmour playing the guitar, or where you hear Mark Knopfler play the guitar. It just hit me in a different way. It's almost like there's a shiver in my spine when I hear David Gilmour play, or Mark. When I hear the other players, I enjoy the technique. I really admire it. I was like, oh man, I wish I I can learn how to do that. This is really cool, but it's not giving me that shiver that
Right.
almost like you want to cry when you listen to it,
Oh,
So
dude,
yeah,
100%, man.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there's few players that can really reach inside of you and just punch your gut like David Gilmour. Like,
yeah.
it's hard. I had a conversation with someone the other day that was asking me about something about Steve Vai,
Mhm.
and I was like, honestly, man, I don't really know much about Steve Vai other than the time he spent with Zappa. That's my exposure to
Right,
Steve Vai is when he played with
right,
Zappa.
right,
So
right.
I'm not like, super hip to what he does. I mean, he's a great player and he's
Yes,
he's
yeah,
created this thing.
yes.
But like for me, like you're saying, like here's a really good story for you, Sage. When I was living in Boston, going to music school, my wife and I went out one night, and there's a club in Boston called Wally's,
Mhm.
and it's a hole in the wall bar. Like it is a dirty, just gross but awesome atmosphere bar.
Probably the best music too.
It's an amazing jazz club.
Yeah,
So we went in one night, and it's always students. So like I was going to
right,
Berkeley, but there's also like New England Conservatory. There's a
right,
couple
right,
schools. So a lot of kids would come and play there. And I'm talking like, I was 28 at the time, but there was like, 21-year-old kids that are just these burning players.
right.
And I can't remember what tune was being played, but this kid was just like just crushing it, like just like 16th notes at this BPM kind of thing
Wow.
almost. And it was over, and I felt like you felt with the hair metal stuff, where I was like, ugh, like that didn't hit me. And my wife looked at me and she was like, he didn't say anything, did he?
Right,
I was like, whoa, because my wife is not a music person.
right.
But she even realized that in that moment, like that wasn't soulful. It was just like spraying 16th notes. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
and Dave Gilmour can play one note. Like he's like BB King, where he can play
Yes.
one note. And
Absolutely.
it's like, ugh, you know what I
Yes.
mean? Well, like, what is it about his playing that because like I know Mark and Dave are like your guys.
Yes.
But what is it about David Gilmour that really speaks to you, the way he plays?
It's funny because, like I said in the beginning, David and Pink Floyd were probably in the beginning before I even knew Dire Straits. And when I discovered about Mark, you'll ask my friends, they will tell you Sage is the Dire Straits freak, So to the point where when I discovered that Mark doesn't even play with a pick, I was like one day, goodbye. And I think I was maybe 12 years old. And I was
Whoa.
trying to imitate what's called the claw style of Mark Knopfler. And it stuck with me ever since. Okay, so if you give me a pick today, I will be like a 5-year-old kid trying to learn guitar. Seriously, I'm not joking. So Gilmour was first, but then Mark kind of captured me. But when I start building effects, because Mark doesn't use a lot of effects, it's more a little bit of an echo, and the distortion will come from the amplifier and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
David is the opposite, but there's something about David Gilmour that he takes whatever effect, it can be the shittiest effect,
Yeah.
and he knows how to bring the beauty out of it. And I give you an example. I never liked flangers, never in my life. Every time I tried to play flanger, I was like, nah, it's not me. It's never gonna happen. But when you listen to David Gilmour, it sounds perfect, and it's all about flanger. I mean, I know he's using chorus and stuff, but I mean, his most iconic sounds are flangers, and I don't care. I mean, I had, versions of the flangers that he's using. The electro harmonics one. You plug in. Sorry, no, it doesn't sound like it. There's
Right.
something about him. And I don't know. I mean, the one thing I've learned about David Gilmour, and this is funny. It brings me back to high school. My first year in high school, we had music class in high school, and the teacher on day one told us we are going to learn The Wall.
Really?
For 3 months, we dissect The Wall from the lyrics to the music to, I mean, to me it was like, what?
Mm.
You know, and I know she was a classical minded teacher, but I guess there's something about that album that it's not just a rock and roll. I mean, there's something there. So I remember then listening to David Gilmour, you know, the way he phrases stuff and the way he plays. Later on, when I studied music, you know, I went to music school. Do you go to Berkeley?
Yeah, that's where I went.
Okay, so my first music school was actually in Israel, and it's a branch of Berkeley.
Oh,
Ramon.
in Tel Aviv?
No, it's
Oh, that's
Ramat Sharon. It's
Okay.
called Ramon School of Music. So the people who started that music, they're all Berkeley graduates. And I'm talking about they started like in the what was it, like late 80s, early 90s? Never mind. And then I went to Musician Institute in Los Angeles. So when I really learned music, I all of a sudden understood that David Gilmour knows the neck of the guitar. He knows the neck. Now, he's not a fast player. He's not a 16-note, you know, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani stuff. But man, this guy, there's if you really listen to his solos, you know, on The Wall or anything, there's he can move from fret 1 to fret 12 in 10 seconds, and you don't even know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like mash, and he knows how to get the notes together. Then you don't realize that, man, he just went through the whole neck.
Yep.
That blew my mind away about him. And then when I start building pedals and getting into more sounds, it kind of like brought me back to Gilmour and to, you know, listen to him a lot and admire him even more.
Yeah. Let's get into your company and stuff here. Really quick though, Walter saying it has to have soul and feeling. Shred doesn't have that.
Yep. Yep.
What's up, BB? Thanks for coming out, buddy.
Salute, Mark.
So when you start building stuff, are you like building out of necessity to like find those tones that, like, for instance, that comes out of David's fingers? Because I mean, I think his solo in Time has got to be one of the best guitar solos in recorded music history. That song and that solo, for some reason, for me at least, the first time I heard that, I was like, oh, this is how you craft a solo, a guitar solo. You know what I mean? But was it for you? Was it something to do with like, I'm hearing this sound in my head and I want to get it? You know what I mean? Is that what happened?
Before I answer, I'm going to give you a second one to listen to, and you might going to change your mind on the solo on Time. Go to David Gilmour live in Gdansk and listen to the solo he does on A Great Day for Freedom.
Okay.
That will melt you.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. And it's funny because, you know, this is a song that he recorded with, you know, in Pink Floyd. And, you know, and even the solo on the album is great. But that version on Gdansk, it just beyond genius. Beyond. Okay. Listen to it. What brought me to do tone was always the number one for me, you know. And I had the idea that, you know, of that pedal board that I've known for. I had that idea for 17 years, but I never, you know, I don't have an engineering degree and all that. Nothing, zero. Okay. Um, but I was kind of I always wanted to have, you know who Pete Cornish is?
Yeah, I know he's
Okay.
a big hero of yours. Yep.
Yes, Pete Cornish. I mean, he's done stage pedal boards to anybody, anybody. And he's just genius in what he does. And the funny thing about Pete Cornish, maybe a lot of people don't know, the early stuff, you send your own pedals to him. It's not even his pedals. You send whatever you have, and he just does his magic around it. Well, and so there was the Pete Cornish stuff, and there was the digital boxes that we all familiar from back in the 80s.
Yeah.
To me, at least for me as a player, getting a Pete Cornish stuff was way too expensive. There's no way I can afford it. And then the digital thing, I just don't like digital. So I was kind of like trying to figure out, well, it got to be something in the middle. I need to bring that Cornish genius kind of a thing and fall somewhere in the middle where it's affordable, maybe as the digital boxes, but at least good as maybe the Cornish stuff or anybody that does a really good, So I had an idea. So I kind of like teamed up with a few designers, and believe it or not, the first one I made, I thought of just making it for myself as a guitar player. That's it. So I had the idea in my head. I had the sound in my head that I wanted to, and I knew how I wanted to have it. So, we worked together and all that, and we created kind of like what I call it, the prototype. And I lived in Nashville back then, and I'm a good friend with Brent Mason and Paul Franklin. So I remember I called Brent one day and I said, "Hey, Brent, are you in the studio?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Why?" I said, "Well, I want to show you something. See what you think." So I brought him to the studio, and remember, I was kind of like happy. It's going to be mine as a guitar player.
Yeah.
And Brent was playing through it and was like, "Oh shit, sorry." He said,
That's okay.
"Man, that's great. What is this?" I said, "I don't know. It's my pedal board. Probably gonna play with it." "You're not doing a business?" "I mean, it's not a business." I said, "No." I was like, "You should. This is something that people will want."
Okay.
And I remember driving back home, and then all these light bulbs starting to flashing and all that, and I was like, okay. Well, it's not going to be easy because I have zero engineering knowledge. So I'm going to have to rely on people to design it for me. So I was focusing on, how you look at Apple products and Steve Jobs and stuff like that. He did not invent the computer. But when you have a Mac in your hand, you got something.
Right.
So I had to think about, I need to create something that when people are going to hold it, play through it, they know they have a quality stuff. Also, I wanted to, and it might going to sound crazy to you, but this is how I thought. If it's going to be a business, I need it to be where if a band or a guitar player going to be on stage and camera is going to start shooting from above, I want everybody to know, even if it's from a far away, oh yeah, that's a Benado board.
Yeah.
Because, today when you see cameras on and you see all these big pedal boards and you see a whole bunch of pedals, you don't know what the pedals are. I mean, unless somebody zooms right in. And
right.
it
Or
doesn't matter.
Tube Screamer or green.
Right. Well, even with the Tube Screamer, there's so many, like clones that looks like it. You don't know if it's the real one. So my mind was, it has to be attractive, recognizable right away. Of course, the quality have to be there. I mean, this is no given, So that's when I started to work on the, like when you see today on my website, that cream color, and the shape of it and all that, that came from all that long line of thinking. And I remember it was 2012. I started the business in 2011, but the products started to go out to the clients around the mid of 2012.
Mm-hmm.
It was Christmas 2012. You remember CMT had a show that put together like two artists from a different genre? Like, you never seen it?
No, I've never seen it.
Oh, you should watch it. I can't remember I think it's called Crossroads.
Oh,
CMT Crossroads.
okay.
So they had Vince Gill and Sting
Whoa.
as a duo. And the whole thing was, the whole show, Vince is doing 5 songs of Sting and Sting is doing 5 songs of Vince. And then they do it together. So I'm getting a text. Have you seen this? And I was like, no. Oh, you better look. And I'm looking, and golly, man, Vince and Sting on stage, bunch of equipment, but you see 2 Benado boards on stage.
Dude.
To me, it was like, okay, I can't get better than that, And I mean, cameras was flying from above and all that, and every angle you could see that long cream looking thing. And you knew it was a Benado board,
Man.
So that's when I knew it's like, okay, I got to focus on that. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So, my question to you is, why multi effects?
Because everybody asked me that.
I know. I knew it would be a typical question, but I'm curious.
There are a billion of great single pedal manufacturers, designers in the world. There's a lot of them. Some of them are amazing and great. Some of them are not, but there's a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
When I started, I didn't want to be another drop in the ocean. It had to be different, Mm-hmm. Remember Nick Greer the other day? I think he said something to the same notion, if I build a pedal, I don't want it to be a clone of something else. Unless it's something different, I don't want to release it.
Totally.
So for me, it was the same thing. I mean, there's like, okay, so I'm going to make an overdrive. Who's that Benado overdrive thing? I mean, there's like 5,000 overdrives in the market. So why will somebody listen to an unknown guy that has an overdrive?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So to me, it had to be different. My biggest dilemma was, why 5?
Right.
It could have been 2. It couldn't be 7. Because if you ask me, there's maybe a few more that I would have loved to have in one box. But then you get to the notion of, okay, now it's going to be bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's going to be heavier. My whole thought was this, and maybe you'll understand, maybe your viewers will understand why it's the size that I have and why it's the shape. My whole notion was I wanted to create something where I'm going to be called to a gig. I don't know what's the line of equipment they're going to give me. I have no idea what amplifier they're going to give me. I want to make sure that when I plug in, I got my sound. Yeah. Even if there's going to be a shitty amp. How many times you've been to places when the amp was shitty?
Oh yeah.
And you played shit, right? It's not because you don't know how to play. It's because you're
not comfortable. Yeah.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I have to have the perfect tone no matter what scenario I'm in. So that's number 1. Number 2, I want it to be easy where I can have just one gig bag and then the guitar and my board is in there. And I don't have to start slopping around a whole bunch of heavy stuff. I want it to be there. So 3 pedals might going to be too little. If I'm go over 5, then it's going to be longer. Or if I have to go to a rectangle, a square one, then where are you going to stick it in your guitar case?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the shape came from. The 5 was, okay, what are the most essential pedals that any genre need to have, no matter what you play? everybody needs like some sort of a light compressor. Everybody needs to have some sort of an overdrive. Everybody needs to have some sort of distortion. Everybody needs to have some sort of delay. The only reason I included reverb is if the reverb on the amp is shit, you're safe.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why those 5, you know, and then you take it, you can play jazz, you can play country, you can play rock, you can play pop, you can play anything with these 5 basic ones.
Yeah.
So that's how it started, you know.
Okay.
From there it just started to go.
That makes sense to me, man. I mean, I think that I can see how your products too, like you were saying, like for fly dates and people that are traveling overseas or whatever it may be. What's the power draw on your boards? Like
9-volt DC
for the whole thing?
Yes, sir.
Dang.
Yeah.
How the heck do you do that?
You know, this was the one thing that I, you know, now 10 years later, remember I told you I have 0 engineering, but I've learned, you know, and today, although I'm using engineers to do that, I know the language. I can speak the language. So I emphasize to them, no matter what we do, we have to make it simple. We have to make it where there's not going to be any problem if you go to Australia or Japan and now, okay, well, I don't have my power supply. It has to be a universal thing, but we need to make sure that the tone and the headroom is there. You know, now you can run my boards safely, probably up until 15 or 16 volt for more headroom, but it's a DC. It's no AC.
Man,
yeah, straightforward DC.
That's amazing. Do you have one of your boards sitting around that you can show someone, like in there near you?
Well, you know, now we're getting into the part, the hurting part, where you know, you probably because we talked about it, and I'm waiting for enclosures.
Yeah,
for like a year and a half.
It's crazy.
I mean, I can show you. What do I have over here? I have empty enclosures, kind of like to show.
Yeah, that's fine. I just want people to see it because they are beautiful.
Yeah. Let me see something. That's gonna be my David Gilmour kind of watch kind of a thing, you know.
Nice.
But if you can see, let me move the microphone. But it's pretty. Where's the camera? There we go. This way. Okay. So you know, you start with a compressor. You know. The Soulburner Pro, are you familiar with Soldano?
Yes.
SLO 100.
Yep.
My favorite amp.
Okay.
I always wanted to, you know, I have the super. Have you ever played through the Supercharger Soldano?
I've never played through any Soldano amps. I just know the history.
So the Supercharger, it's pretty much like an overdrive, huge pedal that Mike Soldano pretty much took the preamp section of the SLO 100 and put it in a pedal. Okay. Love that tone. Okay. And, but it's tube, it's AC, and it's heavy. So I wanted to create something that it's around that flavor because it's amazing overdrive pedal. And I put I put my twist on it. So the Soulburner Pro, it's pretty much where is it?
Yeah,
it's pretty much kind of like around the Soulburner. Now it has where is it? 1, 2, 3. So it has 3 stages.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So you can literally set your gain in one position, and just with a click of a switch, you go into a second stage, you know.
Dude, that's killing, Sage.
And then it has also a treble booster on top. So if you need a little bit more treble, you just click on it and you get more treble.
Man.
Neutral clean will be just a clean boost. You know, it's always nice to have a clean boost if you ever need it. The delay, there we go. Okay, so you see a delay and it says T/echo.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not a tap tempo. Sorry.
That's fine. I have a delay pedal and it does not have tap on it. Or actually, no, this one does, but I kind of like them when they don't.
Yeah. I feel that when you don't tap, it's a little bit more groovy. You kind of like a little bit. I like to play. I like the music to play a little bit behind,
Mm-hmm.
the drums, and not like right with it. To
Mm-hmm.
me, it's a little bit more groovy. So anyway, the T/Echo, that's a tape echo simulator. So you can
Ooh.
have that Echoplex option if you want to. And the cool thing is, if you want to, you just click it and it's there. And if you don't, you just have the delay.
Oh man.
And where is it? Okay. And then
Yeah.
the reverb, that's the reverb that like Paul Franklin and Brent Mason rave about.
Oh, nice.
So now the goodies are in the back.
Mm-hmm.
That's where all the magic happens. So you see all these quarter
Inputs.
inch.
Uh-huh.
That's a built-in patch bay.
What?
Yes. So yeah. So you have an analog patch bay. So you can literally change the order of the pedals to however you want to just by plugging in quarter inch jacks in there, and you're already changing the order. Or if you have your own pedals that you want to bring in, but you want in a very specific order, you just throw it in a patch bay and you got it there.
Dude.
So yeah, so that's all. Oops, that's all built in, and it's all analog.
Man.
The only reason you have a dual 9-volt DC jacks, it's you daisy chain the other one, so you can power other pedals without having their own power supply.
Dude.
You just draw it from here. So you plug into one, and then the other one become out.
Man, you thought of everything, man.
Yes. Also, you have a fuse protection, and then the spare in case somebody blew a fuse, which is like, I have no idea how somebody can blow a fuse on a 9-volt, but if they do, you have a spare one on board. You don't have to look for one.
That's cool.
And then if you go over here, I see this XLR DI out unbalanced.
Yeah.
You can send the whole board directly to the mixing board.
Oh man.
It has its own volume, so you can control the output of the entire board. So you don't clip the house board.
Yeah.
You have effect loop, so you can actually send a delay and a reverb only to effect loop if you want to.
Dude.
Yeah. And then the magic. Okay, you see output 1, output 2.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and you see there's another hole right next to where it says dry signal.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Output 1 and output 2, they're both mono. So you can run to 2 amplifiers at the same time. Okay, if you want to. The dry, there's a switch over there. If you want one output to be just your guitar, no effects, no nothing, completely dry, and the other one be affected at the same time, you flip that switch, and now they are split into, one is only your guitar with nothing on it, and the other one is your guitar with whatever effects you have on.
Man.
So if you're in a studio, that's actually perfect, because the engineer might going to say, man, I love what you play. I don't think I'm happy with the effects. Guess what? He has a saved dry signal on file,
That's cool, Sage.
So
Whoa.
thank you. So that's pretty much the basic, I call it,
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one. The black one was kind of like into, I'm known for the cream, but the black one is the came later on.
There was a red one too, wasn't there?
I signed the deal with Peterson tuner.
Oh, and dude!
Now we have a built-in Peterson HD tuner built into the box.
What?
Yeah. Now the crazy thing about it is, if you look on my website, you see the tuner was round.
Mm-hmm.
About 4 years ago, they still had the older classic Stomp box, where I was able to get just the gut. I didn't need to get the whole pedal, and I designed the enclosures to that. But they change everything and they don't make them any longer. So now they make the new one. And with the new one, I have no choice. I'm actually getting the entire pedal.
Oh man.
It's like the entire, and I'm telling you, it was a bitch to do that. And I tell you why. Do you see this on the pedal itself? Do you see these knobs?
Yeah.
Well, I had to make sure that it's surface enough so you have access to those, because otherwise it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And it took the metal shop forever to do that.
How cool though, man. Like
it is, yeah. Peterson, so that's the red one, and that's the what I call the Mark Knopfler style pedal board. That's actually a client, that one I need to finish for a client from France that he ordered a while back. But yeah, so that's going to have kind of like the same basic as you saw on the Gilmour one, but it's in red.
Man,
another one.
And you said you were going to do fuzz at some point, right? Like,
you heard that, Phil? One of the reasons that my enclosure is made out of steel, it fell. Nothing's going to happen. That's my seafoam green, one of my favorite colors.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah, so
that's so rad. But you did say, we talked a little bit about that. You're thinking about doing something with fuzz too?
Okay, there we go. I knew it's coming.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, how long it's gonna take him to ask me about the fuzz?
Yeah.
The fuzz, just like the flanger that I told you, it's one of those pedals that they're really hard to play with. It's either they sound awful or they sound great. I never liked fuzz as much, but again, David Gilmour and some, there's some other great guitar players, they're using the fuzz that you can get it from a distortion and overdrive. I was like, you know what? Maybe I should get into doing one, but it has to be different. I don't want it to be like, okay, there's another fuzz face or another big muff or whatever. So we've been working on it for 3 years.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I got the final prototype. There's a few tweaks that we need to get it to work, but when it's done, I want to send you one to try and tell me, and you have to be honest. I don't like the reviewers are like, oh,
I don't bullshit.
I want, we'll do it privately, but I really, because I'm not a fuzz guy, so I don't know. I mean, I can hear it, but that's not how I play. Fuzz, there's a certain way you play to get a fuzz to work right.
I love fuzz. I'm fuzz junkie.
I know. I've seen it. That's why I want to send it to you. But I'm excited because it's different. I can tell you this. This is something I can tell you. You will have an option where it will be either a fuzz or a very warm overdrive. Okay. Another thing I can tell you, you'll have the option, like the Soul Burner Pro, like 2 stages. You will have that option where you're going to set wherever you want to set your gain, and you'll have the option to switch it.
Okay. I can do
that. And then the most important one, have you seen the teaser that I put on the Magic Box? Okay. Can't say what it is now, not yet, but the Magic Box will be also part of the fuzz.
Okay.
All
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you don't have to say anymore. I'm just happy that you're doing it. So
that's the answer on like, what about the fuzz? So yeah, it's coming.
Nice. Yeah. Our scientists say that without fuzz, life itself would be impossible.
There you go. I can take that. I'll take it.
Dude, I mean, it's funny because for a long time, I felt the same way about fuzz. Like, I didn't know what to do with it. I really didn't. Like, as a guitarist, like, when you get on a stage with 4 other musicians, sometimes it just gets muddy and you get lost in the mix. And so I didn't know what I was doing until I saw Doyle Bramhall talk
Oh
about
yeah.
how he uses it and what he does. And then everything just like
I didn't know
everything
he used the fuzz. He does?
Oh, dude, he
Wow.
plays a lot of fuzz on his stuff. Yeah,
I
like,
didn't know.
and he stacks it. Like, the first video I saw when he was talking about it was
Right.
using his it's like a fuzz face. I mean, I have 3 of the pedals that he uses
Okay.
because I'm a
Okay.
dork.
Yeah.
But he stacks it with like the Jan Ray or some other overdrive to smooth out the harsh edges.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
probably
yeah, yeah.
why. But I like fuzz almost as a like in your face effect that sounds like your amp is about to implode. Like,
Okay.
that's how I like it. But I also, my buddy Chris from OCE Pedals, the one that I was like playing all over the place on Instagram, which he's a not known builder, but he's building some amazing stuff. But
That the wrench?
the wrench, yeah,
Okay.
that thing,
Yes.
holy, he
Yeah.
hit the nail on the head. Exactly
Yes.
what Mark's ears hear.
Yes.
And
That's a nice one.
oh man,
Yes.
because it can do the implode thing, but you can back it off and it can clean up
Right.
like an overdrive, like you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if whatever you're talking about, and if you're saying it's going to be different, that's right up my alley because I have a tone bender, I have a fuzz face, and I like those circuits, but I also want something different too.
It will. I can promise you, it's not because I'm trying to, to pound my shoulder. It will be different. It has to be different because otherwise I don't want to release anything.
Yeah,
if it's not different, but it is different.
that's cool. You and
well, let's
Mitch
say this:
should
it's
hang
different
out.
enough that I like to play
Yeah,
through it. Okay, so
that's fair. You should, as the builder and as the designer and stuff, and
Yeah.
like you have those visions in your head. You should want to play it. If you don't, you're
Yes.
like, this is not.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sell this.
By the way, another breaking news is I don't like the flangers. I've been working on a flanger for about 2.5 years,
Nice.
and that's going to be a different one.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, so that's another one.
What's the most famous like Pink Floyd tune? Did he use a flanger on
Well, if you
Shine
listen
On You Crazy Diamond, that intro thing, or is that a Leslie?
No, that's Shine On Crazy Diamond will be a rotating speaker and
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
something like that. If you listen to, for instance, for the Final Cut, this entire album, it's a flanger. The Wall, there's a lot of flanger there.
Yeah, that's true. I remember. Yeah. Man,
very subtle. He use it in a very subtle way. That it's like sometimes you're like, is that a chorus or a flanger?
yeah.
It's not like Police where where you like, oh yeah, that's a flanger. That's no, it's like a very subtle way. There's a few times that I was like, darn it, what is it? Is it a flanger? Is it a chorus? Is it a Leslie? It's really hard to know. But, yeah.
Man, I got to go in and just like get back into listening to a bunch of that stuff because it's been my older brother exposed me to Pink Floyd when I was really young. And I didn't get, like, when we would be driving in his like Chevy Blazer, he'd be cranking The Wall and I didn't get it. But I was in middle school, man. Like I didn't know what was going on. Like I was just inside listening to Nirvana's Bleach. Like, and then I come out, which really isn't, when you think about it, man, like the punk rock of Nirvana, there's some
probably influenced by Pink Floyd, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. But there is so many classic tones that guy has, presence he's given us,
Yes.
So it's just, oh man. Well, I don't want to take up all your time, Sage. Are you ready to do the lightning round get down or what?
I think the pills I took earlier start working. So yeah, go ahead. Hit me.
All right. So you know how this works. So I'm going to ask you 10 questions. Right. You can explain your answers. I love to hear explanations of the answers, but it is not a requirement. It is not mandatory, my friend.
Okay.
So I'm going to cruise at 112 BPM. That's my new favorite BPM.
Okay.
All right. So first question's always the same. Lennon or McCartney?
Lennon.
Ice cream or milkshake?
Good Lord. Ice cream.
Tropical island vacation or in the mountains?
Oh my God, man! Now it's hard, you know. My father is a sea captain, and I love the ocean, but I love the mountains. So I'll take the mountains for now.
Okay.
Yep.
Super reverb or twin?
Twin.
All right. Spring water or sparkling water?
Sparkling water.
All right. Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit?
Ooh, I didn't see The Hobbit, so I'll have to say Lord of the Rings. I guess.
All right. If somebody was gonna dare you to be in a bathtub full of snakes or spiders, what would you do?
Neither one of them.
What if you had to? What if it was like,
if
we're
I
gonna
had
kill
to,
you? Would you have to choose one?
Spiders.
Okay.
Man, snakes give me the jeebies. I'm telling you,
dude. Snakes are not my thing either.
Yeah,
man.
no.
Trust me. All right. Tapes or vinyl?
Oh my Lord. Tapes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hardtail or floating bridge?
Oh man. I'll say most of the time hardtail. Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then last
goes
one.
against the Gilmore stuff, but you know,
I
know.
like a hardtail too.
Yeah.
Last one. Sometimes the hardest, sometimes the easiest.
That's the reason I took the pills. It's the last one.
So if you could take an album and erase it from your memory,
right,
just so you could listen to it for the first time again,
yes.
What record would that be?
Well, will you allow me to explain why I have a difficult between the two?
Of course.
Okay.
There's no rules here.
So the two that I will have a difficulties deciding which one will be Dire Straits' Communique, which is the second album, or The Wall by Pink Floyd.
Okay.
The reason is, you know, Communique was the second Dire Straits album. The least favorite of a lot of fans, and if you ask Mark Knopfler himself, he doesn't like that album.
Really? Okay.
Yes, but there is something magical about the Communique. The sound of the album, very warm, very analogy, everything is in your face. You know, either if it's the rhythm section or the guitar. For someone who is trying to learn guitar and like the style of Mark Knopfler, yeah, Sultans of Swing, the first album, it's everybody will go there, but that album will probably give you a very good school about Mark Knopfler style of playing.
Okay.
The Wall is because of whatever the previous stories I told you in the beginning, but there's something about The Wall that, although I don't like Roger Waters' political view at all, but there's some magic about this album. I think it's kind of a genius to write a complete album and tell a story from A to Z and feel like you're watching a movie.
Yeah. And there was a movie.
And then so you know, that's about the lyrics and the story. But then you're talking about David Gilmour. If you really sit down and listen to this album, but really listen, the stuff that David did on that album, that's a 4-year Berkeley
degree. I know. Yeah.
So that's why these are the two. If I had to erase it from the memory, and these will be the two. You know, I know you asked for one, but it's really hard.
No, dude, you did it. You survived. I feel like two is fair. I know it's hard, and I think sometimes too that can change daily. Sometimes, you know, like if you Because there's way too much music out there to love and
Right.
appreciate, you know?
Yeah.
And it's
And,
for
and
you, it makes sense. Those two albums make complete sense.
yeah, and you know, I mean, literally, I could tell you, oh yeah, Brothers in Arms. That's another album that I want
Oh
to
yeah.
erase from my memory because it's like, but there's something about these two that I don't know. Maybe it's because the age I was, and I was start getting into the music, and you know, you got the Knopfler and you got the Gilmore, and those very two albums are from you know, sonically and the music in there. There's something that
Yeah.
I would love to erase it and sit down and either put a tape or the needle and just listen to it from
Start to
scratch.
finish. Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
It's good records, man. It's good records. I remember the first time when I was in my brother's car and I heard, "Mother, do you think they'll try to break my balls?" I was like, "What did he just say?" And I was like, "Okay, all right,
yeah,
let's." And meanwhile, like, as a young songwriter, I was writing the crappiest lyrics ever, and I'm listening to Soundgarden and Nirvana
right,
and Pearl Jam, and my brother's like,
right,
"Dude, what are the lyrics in the bands you like?" You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
right,
because he didn't understand. He kind of skipped that scene. Like he was into Pink Floyd and the Grateful Dead and
right,
all that stuff. And I'm thankful, and I will forever be thankful for my older brother for exposing to me
yeah,
to all those songs and all that
sure,
music, because it totally took me on a path. And it sounds like, and that's what I love about music, man. Look what it did for
it is.
you.
I
It
know
takes you places, man.
it is
It's cool.
absolutely
So
yes.
cool. Well,
Yeah,
Sage, thank you so much for doing this, buddy. I mean, I really appreciate your time, and it means a lot to me. So thank you.
thank you for having me. I mean, it's an honor, man. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, everybody, go check out Sage. What's your website? Tell everybody your website so they can check out your product.
BenadoFX.com.
Cool. Easy enough.
Yep.
And he's on Instagram and everything. He's reachable if you have questions about his products and stuff. Sage is the man. So thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much, man. We'll stay in touch.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We will see you next time.
Thank you.